Dr. Mark Sisson, he's not a doctor,
Yes.
Mark Sisson.
Yes.
He's behind Primal Kitchen brand, which is amazing, and I know you must love. He said on the show, he's very leery now of fruits and vegetables. He's very worried about the number of pesticides on your average fruit and vegetable. And he's very, I don't know if he's full paleo on, all the meats and so on, but he was leaning that direction more and more. What are your thoughts on that? Because you do have some interesting conclusions on diet and like the various diets that are out there and so on.
Yeah. I think that we do need to have a bigger conversation about pesticides in this country because it's just so unchecked. When we think about the companies that are making pesticides in the US, we are buying a lot of these chemicals straight from China and straight from Germany.
Oh, God.
And two American companies, one of the largest merger ever in Germany was the merger of Bayer and Monsanto. So a pharmaceutical company and agrochemical company that are now teaming up. And what's so devastatingly, I don't even want to use that word ironic because it trivializes how serious this is. But, Bayer Monsanto, Bayer makes pharmaceuticals to treat non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and glyphosate, which is made by Monsanto, has strong links and mechanistic links to the development of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So you think about how dark that is, that it's almost like a revolving door between a merger of a company that creates a product that's virtually unregulated in our country, that leads to cancer, and then has merged with a company that creates a treatment for that cancer. So that's the type of darkness that we're seeing in the pesticide industry. And, Chem China, that makes a huge amount of the pesticides we buy, we're just funneling billions of dollars towards China to basically sell us chemicals that are invisibly poisoning our food. And these pesticides, if you look at the scientific links to diseases, we know that pesticides are linked to ADHD, to thyroid disease, to sperm dysfunction, female infertility, male infertility, cancer, autism, liver disease. The list goes on and on, and that they actually poison the part of our cell that does mitochondrial or metabolic activity, which is the mitochondria. People remember from high school biology, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It's the key part of the cell that's involved in metabolic health, and it is damaged by pesticides, of which 99% of American foods are grown non-organically, so are using these synthetic pesticides, which have a link wildly to Nazi Germany, who was developing organophosphate pesticides as part of their war effort to increase yields to feed German soldiers. And so it's just a very, very dark link. There's been a lot of corruption in that data. The Monsanto Papers was this scandal that came out years ago about Monsanto essentially, working to silence the data and massage the data that said that pesticides are safe. And then you look at how this sort of, how this is happening on the systemic level. Well, we have a farm bill that's renewed every 5 years, and this is a $500 billion plus bill that is used to help support farmers with crop insurance and subsidies for commodity crop growth. But unfortunately, what this $500 billion bill does is it funds the commodity crops that are turned to ultra-processed foods. So corn, wheat, soy, sugar beets, things like that, which then become the cheapest possible commodities on the market because taxpayers have funded the subsidies, which then gives a cheap, basically raw material to all the ultra-processed food companies to then turn into these ultra-processed garbage foods that are built on the backbone of commodity crops. Then they add in toxic colorings and natural flavors and dough conditioners and preservatives to make it taste like food, but really it's built on this bland, taxpayer-funded, pesticide-covered commodity crop through our farm bill. So at the policy level, this is how it gets on our plates. And this is why the unhealthy food is cheaper, because taxpayers are paying for it to be subsidized to be cheaper. And then taxpayers are paying for the environmental externalities from this destructive type of agriculture and for the healthcare costs of Americans who are getting sick because of this food. So we're paying 4 times over for the unhealthy food that is making us sick. And the devastating part, because it's not necessarily, the farmers who are responsible for our health. It's the doctors who are there to help us on our health. But this is the part that's devastating, is that there's a devil's bargain that exists right now between ultra-processed food, who wants to make food as cheap and addictive as possible, so we'll buy more, and the healthcare industry that financially benefits off more patients being sick with chronic illnesses and needing treatment over longer periods of time. You would think that doctors would be in the front of the line to be studying what pesticides and plastics and microplastics and artificial colorings and preservatives in our food are doing to our chronic illness. But have you ever heard someone in the Fauci realm getting up and talking about these things on a microphone saying we have to investigate our food supply? No. It's someone like RFKJ who's then being silenced for talking about these things and being called a fringe lunatic for bringing these things up. And so there's something very dark and backwards around the incentives between these two of the largest industries in the country that unfortunately, and this is an unemotional statement of fact, benefit from more Americans being addicted to taxpayer subsidized ultra processed foods filled with toxic additives and a healthcare industry that benefits from more patients having chronic disease over a longer period of time.
That brings me to seed oils, which I really want to discuss. But before I get there, I want to just say the conclusion that I reached from reading the book on the number of diets, the kinds of diets, whether it's keto or paleo or Mediterranean. And what I think, you correct me if I'm wrong about your conclusion, because I've been reading a lot of you, so I may have confused it, but I think you reached basically the same conclusion that Peter Attia reached and that he espoused on our show, which was, he said he's come to the conclusion that it doesn't really matter which one of those you choose, that you shouldn't be too rigid. But what does matter is the things you're talking about. Eating real whole foods, no sugar, no added sugar. We're not talking about the sugar that naturally occurs in like a raspberry, but like the added sugar, avoiding seed oils, trying to at least limit, ideally eliminate alcohol, those kinds of things. But do you have the same conclusion just on, eat kind of the general plan you want, but make sure you follow these guidelines?
Yeah. We have to realize that the diet wars are a charade. Diet controversy is intended to confuse us so that as consumers, we're spinning our wheels and not sure what to eat and grasping for different solutions sold to us by marketers and the food industry. We are being distracted from what matters, which is that the vast majority of American calories and the foods that are being gavaged down kids' throats is pesticide-covered, plastic-filled, chemical-laden, science experiment food from a factory that is destroying our cellular health. So step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is to get off ultra-processed foods before even talking about a dietary philosophy. So that's number one. The second piece, just look at the world. There are so many different traditional types of diets all over the world with different macronutrient compositions and different types of foods that people are eating. And we are designed as humans to have all these redundant pathways in our body that can use different types of foods to generate cellular health. But the common denominator between a carnivore diet that leads someone to improve their metabolic health and a vegan diet that leads someone to improve their metabolic health is real unprocessed clean food. So there's more commonalities than differences. So I just want to be very clear. The diet wars are a distraction from what matters, which is eating high quality, nutrient filled, non-chemically laden food. So we just that is the key point, is that many industries benefit off of our mass confusion about diet. And, there's another piece of the puzzle here, which I think is actually a really beautiful aspect of the world that we're living in right now and the technological advancements that have happened in science, which is that we have access to a lot of testing and, biomarker lab work, things like that can actually tell us each if our diet is working for us. So right now, over 50% of Americans, when you survey them, they're completely confused about nutrition. They don't know what to eat and they feel paralyzed by all the choices and the different diet wars. But what people don't understand is that when we understand the basics of our foundational lab work, simple tests that any doctor can order, and we take some ownership and start really being the CEO of our health and not just fully outsourcing our health data to daddy doctor. When we start taking some more ownership over that, which the healthcare system has indoctrinated patients to believe that they are not smart enough to understand their lab work, which is incorrect. I think every fifth grader in America can understand their basic lab work and the physiology behind it. And that's why I lay it out in my book. Things like triglyceride levels, HDL cholesterol, fasting glucose levels, what does a blood pressure mean? These basic lab work. If we track those over time and we understand the basics about them, we can see whether the diet we're eating is generating metabolic health and is generating the conditions in our body that will help us avoid chronic disease.
Hungry Root is one very easy way to eat healthy. They send you fresh, high-quality groceries, simple, delicious recipes, and essential supplements. It's like having someone else do all the planning and shopping so you don't even have to think about it. Hungry Root gets to know your personal health goals, your dietary restrictions, favorite foods, how much time you want to spend cooking, and more. Then they will build you a personalized cart for the week, including easy 4-ingredient recipes to put those groceries to use. Each order fully customizable. They've got fresh produce, high-quality meat, healthy snacks, and more. Everything from Hungry Root follows a simple standard. It has to taste good, be quick to make, and contain whole, trusted ingredients. Hungry Root is offering the Megyn Kelly Show viewers 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/Megyn, Megyn, to get 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. hungryroot.com/Megyn. Don't forget to use our links so they know we sent you. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.